Hi everyone, this is Sunit, and in this video I would like to open up some dimensions of perspective in relation to the Clockboy experience that's been grabbing the mass attention of the majority of people on a global level. So the Clockboy. I mean, if you're not familiar with this story or experience, in a nutshell, it is a boy who made a school project, and the teacher misinterpreted the project that he had built as being a bomb, and then informed the authorities, and it was a whole outflow consequence of a response or a reaction of fear coming from the teacher in relation to interpreting or misinterpreting his creation to be a bomb when it was not. So the primary dimension that we're having a look at here is fear, and the consequence that fear creates. Now, many, for example, might have a look at that situation and blame the teacher from the perspective of reacting, and responding in fear, and what this boy had gone through. When granted, yes, it is an unfortunate outflow consequence of fear, but a dimension that we do have to consider within this all is, how did that fear come about in the first place? I mean, from the perspective that the teacher may have been justified in their actions, within and as fear, from the perspective of what has been going on within the world, in relation to the human consequence and the actions of violence, war, terrorism, fighting, criminal activity, things like that, which has been escalating, and not only on a global level but also on a media level, news level, where constantly and continuously we're bombarded with war, violence, terrorism, and it goes on and on and on and on. It's fascinating that in most people's minds, we've almost got newsreels going on, continuing in our thoughts and our emotions, constantly, continuously replaying the news and what's happening in the world within an emotional experience of fear. Because, I mean, our very lives and survival and living is being threatened constantly and continuously. It's fascinating that the way, the media also presents what's going on in the world is, just constantly and continuously imprinting the emotional reaction or response of fear. So within that, you've got people walking around, in society in constant fear. I mean, it would also be quite interesting in terms of seeing, how many consequences had come about, like, for example, this Clockboy situation, where people had taken actions out of fear based on assumption or misinterpretation or perception, where they were so much caught up in fear of their lives or survival, based on what's being imprinted into them by the media, by newspapers, by the internet, by other people. Now, look, I'm not saying that the information is the problem. I mean, we need to know what's going on in the world, for sure. I mean, war, violence, terrorism, conflict, I mean, it's everywhere. But the problem within it all is our emotional response to it. Because, I mean, I can't speak for the teacher, but what the teacher essentially embodied was how everyone exists. I mean, you can even for yourself have a look at how many times a day does your thoughts go to watching other people, or misinterpreting or interpreting other people, reacting in fear to them, when you're walking, when you're driving, or when something looks suspicious, how you go into that emotional reaction of fear. And is something going to happen? Is something being done to you? Or should you do something or not do something? You know, it's frightening how this point actually exposes the current condition and state within which people exist. Now look, in terms of how the teacher responded, it's for the teacher, and this is what I meant with, I can't necessarily speak for the teacher, but you know, in having a look at the point, you know, that based on what is currently going on in this world, and based on all people's emotional response to it, the fears, the worries, the concerns, the stress, I mean, they probably considered, you know, the safety of the school, of everyone else, of the chance that this could be, you know, something like a bomb. So, you know, from that perspective, being safe rather than sorry, you know, was one dimension we should consider as well, in terms of the fact that we can't blame the teacher. If there is a point that we need to look at, is what that whole situation actually shows in how all of us are existing on some level or another. So we have to then also have a look here at, you know, what would the solution be? You know, I would say, unfortunately, because of, you know, how we're living in the times of today, you have to be safe. You know, you have to be considerate. You have to consider the safety of the many. Yes, maybe how the teacher went about it could have, you know, been approached a little bit differently. But, I mean, at the same time, just for a moment, place yourself in their shoes. And, I mean, the consequences that flowed out from that onto the child. I mean, this just shows, you know, how at the moment, on a global level, most of us, the majority of humanity, are existing confined in their minds in absolute fear and petrification, stress and worry and concern, where everyone is like retreating inside their minds and inside their homes, kind of like, you know, sitting going, is anything going to happen? Am I safe? You know, instead of, if you would push past your emotions, your fears of what's happening in this world, and maybe for a moment start considering how instead you can contribute to finding solutions to what's happening in this world. I mean, don't go unnecessarily into that experience of what can I do? What can you do is you can start joining so many people, so many young people, children, the future of this world, who are busy coming together, standing up and looking for solutions. And not only that, but creating solutions, proposals for what we can do to change this world. I mean, we don't know if it might happen in this lifetime, but, you know, in terms of investigating the living income guaranteed, you know, we are at least creating the stepping stones, the foundations that can prepare for a better future. You know, that children who are coming into this world even today, you know, might be able to develop the necessary awareness and understanding in terms of, you know, the importance of starting to direct this world on a global level, and, you know, bringing in some significant changes. We don't know how much consequence humanity must still face for that awareness to start coming through. But in the meantime, for those who do have the awareness of change needs to happen, you know, we're getting in there with living income guaranteed. So on a personal level, your self-honesty is to have a look. Are you the one retreating in emotions and in fear based on what's going on in this world? Or are you the one taking a breath, standing up, and instead standing for a solution? I mean, obviously, yes, be considerate of the dangers that's happening on Earth. It's very much real. But there's a difference between reacting to it in emotion and being practical about it. All right, I'll go to here for this video. Some insights, perspectives, and dimensions to consider in relation to this Clockboy experience. All right, thank you very much.